Chapter 18, Interest Groups and Public Opinion. Our chapter objectives for Section 1 on interest group organization, we will define the types of interest groups in the United States. Section 2, affecting public policy, we will explain how lobbyists affect public policy. Section 3, shaping public opinion, will investigate how public opinion is formed in the United States. And then finally, Section 4, measuring public opinion, will evaluate the methods used to measure public opinion. Interest group organization. The power of interest groups. Members of interest groups share common goals and organize to influence government. Interest groups are concerned only with a few issues or problems. They unite people with common values or attitudes from various regions. Interest groups help bridge the gap between citizens and the government. Interest groups draw their strength from their financial resources, numbers, and expertise of their members. Interest groups help to promote their members' economic self-interest, beliefs, values, or attitudes to help create group unity. Although membership in interest groups is a right of all, many people do not belong to such groups, even the people who might benefit the most. Business groups, such as the National Association of Manufacturers, or NAM, are among the oldest and largest interest groups. The AFL-CIO and other large unions are important interest groups that play a major role in national politics. Agricultural groups. 3 major interest groups represent almost 6 million farmers. Agricultural interest groups include the American Farm Bureau Federation, the National Farmers Union, and the Grange. Other interest groups. The American Bar Association and the American Medical Association are interest groups that include members of specific professions. Hundreds of environmental groups are concerned about the environment and the impact of environmental regulation on private property. Groups concerned about the public interest, such as Public Citizen, Incorporated, and Common Cause, seek policy goals that they believe will benefit all citizens. Officials of state and local governments also form organizations that seek to influence the President and Congress. Many other interest groups promote a particular cause, support the aims of large segments of the population, or support civil rights. Foreign governments and private interests of foreign nations also seek to influence the government of the United States. Section 2, affecting public policy. The work of lobbyists. Most interest groups use lobbying, or making direct contact with lawmakers or other government leaders to influence government policy. Since 1995, lobbyists must register, report their activities, and disclose the amount of money spent to influence lawmakers. Many lobbyists formerly worked for the government and know its politics and people. Other lobbyists are lawyers or public relations experts. Lobbyists can provide lawmakers with useful information supporting an interest group's position, give testimony before congressional committees, and help draft bills. Interest or pressure groups use the mass media to inform the public and create support for their views. Interest groups encourage their members to write letters to government officials to demonstrate broad support for or against a public policy. While interest groups have influence, their effectiveness is limited because many different groups compete, and thus no single group can control lawmakers or other public officials. The larger the interest group, the more diverse are the interests of its members, making it difficult for groups to adopt broad policy goals. Most interest groups do not have a large financial base and must struggle just to pay their staffs. The rise of political action committees. Interest groups provide a large percentage of the funds used in candidates' election campaigns, collecting these funds mostly through political action committees, and of course now super PACs and the 501c4s mentioned previously. When campaign laws were reformed in 1974, new laws limited the amounts that individuals could contribute to federal candidates, but permitted the PACs of labor unions and corporations to make direct contributions. PACs grew to more than 4,000 in the 1990s, although during the 1970s new laws regulated and limited the funds that they raised. PACs can give only $5,000 directly to each candidate per election, but PAC spending is not limited as long as they do not work directly with the candidates. In 1976, the Supreme Court ruled any independent group could give money to a political candidate as long as it did not have legal ties to that candidate, resulting in a great increase in PAC spending. The Federal Elections Commission ruled in 1975 that corporations could administer their own PACs and use payroll deductions to raise money from employees, resulting in a far larger increase in corporate PAC spending than in labor PAC spending. Several decisions by the Supreme Court, such as Buckley versus Vallejo 1976, promoted the growth of PACs. In 1996, the court held that spending in support of federal candidates was a form of free speech, and thus such spending could not be limited. Affiliated PACs, or PACs tied to corporations, labor unions, trade groups, or health organizations, make up about 70% of all PACs. They raise money from voluntary contributions. Independent PACs, or PACs interested in particular causes such as abortion, farm subsidies, or the environment, are not connected to any existing businesses or organization. They raise money largely through direct mail appeals. Interest groups may promise to provide campaign support or to withhold such support in order to influence lawmakers to favor their policies. Interest groups, especially PACs, raise much of the money spent in political campaigns, usually supporting incumbents. With interest group support, incumbents generally have a good chance of re-election. Some members of Congress acknowledge the power of PACs, but claim that the PAC's influence does not determine their votes. Interest groups, too, sometimes question the value of lobbying and funding candidates. It is difficult to determine whether special interest lobbies have an overall positive or negative effect on government.